The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. Welcome back to the Berean Pursuit. This is week 30, day 5. Today we're reading the book of Joel with chapters 1 through 3, as well as Matthew chapter 10. Last time we finished our Old Testament reading with the death of Joash after he turned away from the Lord when Jehoiada the priest died, and he actually had Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada, killed. He was a prophet of God who was rebuking him, and he had the people stone him to death. And then Joash was killed, and his son Amaziah took over as king. And so that's where we ended that. But now we're moving into some of the prophets who prophesied around this time. We don't actually know when Joel prophesied. There's not enough in the book to give us any kind of date to go off of, but this is as good a place as any to put it. All right, well, let's go ahead and begin our reading of the book of Joel, chapters 1 through 3. This is the word of the Lord that came to Joel, son of Pethuel. Hear this, O elders, and give ear, all who dwell in the land. Has anything like this ever happened in your days or in the days of your fathers? Tell it to your children. Let your children tell it to their children, and their children to the next generation. What the devouring locust has left, the swarming locust has eaten. What the swarming locust has left, the young locust has eaten. And what the young locust has left, the destroying locust has eaten. Wake up, you drunkards, and weep. Wail, all you drinkers of wine, because of the sweet wine, for it has been cut off from your mouth. For a nation has invaded my land, powerful and without number. Its teeth are the teeth of a lion, and its fangs are the fangs of a lioness. It has laid waste my grapevine and splintered my fig tree. It has stripped off the bark and thrown it away. The branches have turned white. Wail like a virgin dressed in sackcloth, grieving for the husband of her youth. Grain and drink offering have been cut off from the house of the Lord. The priests are in mourning, those who minister before the Lord. The field is ruined, the land mourns, for the grain is destroyed, the new wine is dried up, and the oil fails. Be dismayed, O farmers, wail, O vine dressers, over the wheat and barley, because the harvest of the field has perished. The grapevine is dried up, and the fig tree is withered, the pomegranate, palm, and apple, all the trees of the orchard are withered. Surely the joy of mankind has dried up. Put on sackcloth and lament, O priests. Wail, O ministers of the altar. Come, spend the night in sackcloth, O ministers of my God, because the grain and drink offerings are withheld from the house of your God. Consecrate a fast. Proclaim a solemn assembly. Gather the elders and all the residents of the land to the house of the Lord your God, and cry out to the Lord. Alas, for the day! For the day of the Lord is near, and it will come as destruction from the Almighty. Has not the food been cut off before our very eyes? Joy and gladness from the house of our God. The seeds lie shriveled beneath the clods. The storehouses are in ruins, the granaries are broken down, for the grain has withered away. How the cattle groan! The herds wander in confusion because they have no pasture. Even the flocks of sheep are suffering. To you, O Lord, I call, for fire has consumed the open pastures, and flames have scorched all the trees of the field. Even the beasts of the field pant for you, for the streams of water have dried up, and fire has consumed the open pastures. Blow the ram's horn in Zion, sound the alarm on my holy mountain. Let all who dwell in the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming. Indeed, it is near, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and blackness. Like the dawn overspreading the mountains, a great and strong army appears, such as never was of old, nor will ever be in ages to come. Before them a fire devours, and behind them a flame scorches. The land before them is like the Garden of Eden, but behind them it is like a desert wasteland. Surely nothing will escape them. Their appearance is like that of horses, and they gallop like swift steeds, with a sound like that of chariots. They bound over the mountain tops like the crackling of fire consuming stubble, like a mighty army deployed for battle. Nations writhe in horror before them. Every face turns pale. They charge like mighty men. They scale the walls like men of war. Each one marches in formation, not swerving from the course. They do not jostle one another. Each proceeds in his path. They burst through the defenses, never breaking ranks. They storm the city. They run along the wall. They climb into houses, entering through windows like thieves. Before them the earth quakes, the heavens tremble. The sun and moon grow dark, and the stars lose their brightness. The Lord raises his voice in the presence of his army. Indeed, his camp is very large, for mighty are those who obey his command. For the day of the Lord is great and very dreadful. Who can endure it? Yet even now, declares the Lord, return to me with all your heart, with fasting, weeping, and mourning. So rend your hearts and not your garments, and return to the Lord your God. For he is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, abounding in loving devotion, and he relents from sending disaster. Who knows, he may turn and relent and leave a blessing behind him, grain and drink offerings for the Lord your God. Blow the ram's horn in Zion, consecrate a fast, proclaim a sacred assembly. Gather the people, sanctify the congregation, assemble the aged, gather the children, even those nursing at the breast. Let the bridegroom leave his room and the bride her chamber. Let the priests who minister before the Lord weep between the portico and the altar, saying, Spare your people, O Lord, and do not make your heritage a reproach, an object of scorn among the nations. Why should they say among the peoples, Where is their God? Then the Lord became jealous for his land, and he spared his people, and the Lord answered his people, Behold, I will send you grain, new wine, and oil, and by them you will be satisfied. I will never again make you a reproach among the nations. The northern army I will drive away from you, banishing it to a barren and desolate land, its front ranks into the eastern sea, and its rear guard into the western sea. And its stench will rise, its foul odor will ascend, for he has done great things. Do not be afraid, O land, rejoice and be glad, for the Lord has done great things. Do not be afraid, O beasts of the field, for the open pastures have turned green. The trees bear their fruit, and the fig tree and vine yield their best. Be glad, O children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he has given you the autumn rains for your vindication. He sends you showers, both autumn and spring rains, as before. The threshing floors will be full of grain, and the vats will overflow with new wine and oil. I will repay you for the years eaten by locusts, the swarming locust, the young locust, the destroying locust, and the devouring locust, my great army that I sent against you. You will have plenty to eat until you are satisfied. You will praise the name of the Lord your God, who has worked wonders for you. My people will never again be put to shame. Then you will know that I am present in Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and there is no other. My people will never again be put to shame. And afterward I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your old men will dream dreams, your young men will see visions. Even on my men servants and maid servants I will pour out my spirit in those days. I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and columns of smoke. The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and awesome day of the Lord. And everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. For on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there will be deliverance, as the Lord has promised, among the remnant called by the Lord. Yes, in those days and at that time, when I restore Judah and Jerusalem from captivity, I will gather all the nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. There I will enter into judgment against them concerning my people, my inheritance Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations as they divided up my land. They cast lots for my people. They bartered a boy for a prostitute and sold a girl for wine to drink. Now what do you have against me, O Tyre, Sidon, and all the regions of Philistia? Are you rendering against me a recompense? If you retaliate against me, I will swiftly and speedily return your recompense upon your heads. For you took my silver and gold and carried off my finest treasures to your temples. You sold the people of Judah and Jerusalem to the Greeks to send them far from their homeland. Behold, I will rouse them from the places to which you sold them. I will return your recompense upon your heads. I will sell your sons and daughters into the hands of the people of Judah, and they will sell them to the Sabaeans, to a distant nation. Indeed, the Lord has spoken. Proclaim this among the nations. Prepare for war, rouse the mighty men, let all the men of war advance and attack. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Come quickly, all you surrounding nations, and gather yourselves. Bring down your mighty ones, O Lord. Let the nations be roused and advance to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there I will sit down to judge all the nations on every side. Swing the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, trample the grapes, for the winepress is full. The wine vats overflow because their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. The sun and moon will grow dark, and the stars will no longer shine. The Lord will roar from Zion and raise his voice from Jerusalem. Heaven and earth will tremble. But the Lord will be a refuge for his people, a stronghold for the people of Israel. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God, who dwells in Zion, my holy mountain. Jerusalem will be holy, never again to be overrun by foreigners. And in that day the mountains will drip with sweet wine, and the hills will flow with milk. All the streams of Judah will run with water, and a spring will flow from the house of the Lord to water the valley of acacias. Egypt will become desolate, and Edom a desert wasteland, because of the violence done to the people of Judah, in whose land they shed innocent blood. But Judah will be inhabited forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. For I will avenge their blood which I have not yet avenged. For the Lord dwells in Zion. And now to the New Testament in Matthew chapter 10. All right, last time in the book of Matthew, in chapter 9, we saw more miracles that Jesus did, signifying who he is. And it starts off with him healing a paralyzed man, but before he healed him, he forgave his sins. And so healing him was proof that he could forgive sins, which is something that makes him quite special among men. And the people marveled that God had given men the authority to forgive sins. We also saw him calling Matthew to follow him as his disciple, and as Matthew was a tax collector, he got many of his friends who were tax collectors and other sinners to come and hear Jesus at his house and have a dinner together with him. And Jesus makes the point to the Pharisees, who are questioning why Jesus would eat with such people, that he came to call sinners, not the righteous. He also had to explain to the disciples of John why his disciples did not fast, because he's with them. And that's a time for rejoicing. It's not a time for fasting, but when he leaves, there will be a time for fasting then. But he says you have to have things in their appropriate place, in their appropriate time. You don't put new wine into old wineskins, or new cloth onto old cloth as a patch, because it's going to tear it. It's going to burst the wineskins. It's going to ruin things if you don't put things together that belong together. You can't put the new into the old is the basic message there. And we saw some other miracles, the woman who touched his cloak and was healed from the flow of blood. We saw the blind men being healed, and the mute man who was demon-possessed healed by casting out the demon. And the accusation, given that it's by the prince of demons that he's casting out demons, he doesn't deal with that here. He'll deal with that in another place. But here we see his concern for the crowds that are coming out. And he says that the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. So pray for the Lord of the harvest to send out workers. So that's where we left off last time. So let's begin our reading today in Matthew chapter 10. And calling his 12 disciples to him, Jesus gave them authority over unclean spirits, so that they could drive them out and heal every disease and sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles: first Simon, called Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions: Do not go on to the road of the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. As you go, preach this message: The kingdom of heaven is near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. Do not carry any gold or silver or copper in your belts. Take no bag for the road, or second tunic, or sandals, or staff, for the worker is worthy of his provisions. Whatever town or village you enter, find out who is worthy there, and stay at his house until you move on. As you enter the home, greet its occupants. If the home is worthy, let your peace rest on it. But if it is not, let your peace return to you. And if anyone will not welcome you or heed your words, shake the dust off your feet when you leave that home or town. Truly I tell you, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. Behold, I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. But beware of men, for they will hand you over to their councils and flog you in their synagogues. On my account you will be brought before governors and kings as witnesses to them and to the Gentiles. But when they hand you over, do not worry about how to respond or what to say. In that hour you will be given what to say. For it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and a father his child. Children will rise against their parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by everyone because of my name, but the one who perseveres to the end will be saved. When they persecute you in one town, flee to the next. Truly I tell you, you will not reach all the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. A disciple is not above his teacher, nor a servant above his master. It is enough for a disciple to be like his teacher, and a servant like his master. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebul, how much more the members of his household? So do not be afraid of them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, and nothing hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the housetops. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Instead, fear the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of your Father. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So do not be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Therefore, everyone who confesses me before men, I will also confess him before my Father in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, I will also deny him before my Father in heaven. Do not assume that I have come to bring peace. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. Anyone who loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me, and anyone who does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. He who receives you receives me, and he who receives me receives the one who sent me. Whoever receives a prophet because he is a prophet will receive a prophet's reward, and whoever receives a righteous man because he is a righteous man will receive a righteous man's reward. And if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones because he is my disciple, truly I tell you, he will never lose his reward. All right, in the reading today, we read the book of Joel, and it talks about this plague of locusts that was going to come and destroy all the crops where the drunkards would mourn because all the grapes were gone. There was no wine to drink, and even the priests would be mourning, not just because of the sin of the people or the devastation in general, but because there's no grain offering to offer to the Lord. And so it's a call on them to repent. They are to rend their hearts instead of their garments. The normal thing to show your sorrow and repentance, in a sense, is to tear your clothes. That's what we see over and over again throughout the Old Testament. But he says, if you just tear your clothes, that's not going to do any good. God wants your hearts to be torn. He wants you to actually have a change of heart, to actually be sorrowful and mourn over your sin and turn away from it. And he says, if you do, perhaps God will relent and he will not send this army of locusts, or if he does, he'll make sure that there's something left behind so that it's not complete devastation. The term the day of the Lord is used in 3 different ways, or maybe 2, depending on how you look at it. But the first one is this day of devastation from the locusts. That's the day of the Lord. And then it talks about after this, there would be another day of the Lord. And he's going to pour out his spirit on all people. And there's going to be prophesying and dreams and visions of all kinds of people. Not every person is meant there. A lot of translations, at least in the quotation in Acts, will say all flesh, meaning all kinds of people. But the idea is sons and daughters, old men, young men, men servants, and maid servants. He's going to pour out his spirit on all of them. And we know from Acts chapter 2 that this is this was fulfilled on the day of Pentecost with the beginning of the church, as the Spirit was poured out on the apostles, first through the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and then later on through the apostles laying hands on a lot of people who were in the kingdom. But in that prophecy, it says that whoever calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. But he says that all these great things are going to happen before the day of the Lord, the great and awesome day of the Lord, which could be the destruction of Jerusalem. In theory, it could be the final judgment as well, because he certainly has in mind the salvation from eternal punishment. But a lot of this is tied in also with the destruction of Jerusalem. But in chapter 3 of Joel, he talks about the nations being gathered and brought to judgment in the valley of Jehoshaphat. And recently we read about Jehoshaphat and this battle that Jehoshaphat's army didn't have to fight. You had 3 nations coming against him and Judah, but the Lord caused them to fight each other, and they killed each other completely. And all Jehoshaphat and his army had to do was go and take the spoils. Some of the things said about the specific nations, Tyre and Sidon and Philistia, sounds like he's talking about when Babylon came in and conquered Judah, and then the things that happened following that. If this is early on, then it seems a little bit strange for this to be the prophecy. This may have been written later on. If that's what this is referring to, it's not entirely clear, but certainly they were oppressed throughout their history by the nations around them because of their sin, because they had turned away from God and turned to idols. God allowed these nations to come and oppress them. But that doesn't mean that what these nations did was acceptable. But God also says in this prophecy that they carried off his gold and silver and his finest treasures to their temples. So that could be when they're taken away into captivity and the temple is destroyed and all of that. Or it could be because of the times when the kings of Judah would send the money, even what they got out of the temple, the gold, or when some of the nations would come and conquer them and take the gold and silver out of the temple. So it could be many of these things. I don't know for sure which one it is, but the main point is he's going to bring judgment against them. And this seems to be, looking forward to later on when these particular nations aren't even around anymore, if it's after the beginning of the church. But he's looking forward to a different kind of a judgment. Basically the same type of thing we read about in the book of Revelation. And it seems to be this judgment he's bringing on all nations, especially those who oppress his people. And so that's what we're looking at here in the book of Joel. Even if we don't know all the specifics, we can tell that he's bringing judgment against those that are against him and against God's people. And that was true at that time with the Jews, but it's also true today when we talk about the church, the kingdom of Christ. All right, then in Matthew chapter 10, we read about Jesus and his 12 apostles. He sent them out to cast out demons and heal diseases. He gave them that authority. And so he gave them the instructions to go to only the cities of the Jews, not to the Gentiles or the Samaritans, but to go to the Jews and tell them that the kingdom of heaven is near. And then do all these miracles, and hopefully people would listen. If they did not, then you shake off the dust of your feet and you go on to the next. But he gives them a warning, and I don't think this warning is particularly for this time, but it's going to happen as they continue to carry out this type of work, that they're going to be heavily persecuted. And he says, when you're persecuted, go on to the next town and keep going, because you're not going to finish going through them before the day of judgment comes. You're not going to finish going through them before Jesus comes, and before the Son of Man comes. And I don't think that means he's following after them, going to all these different towns. I think he's talking about him coming in judgment, especially against Jerusalem. I think that has to be what it is in this context. So he's looking a little bit further into the future in some of these instructions that he gives, not just about this particular time, but he tells them not to be afraid of those who persecute them. They should fear God. These people can kill them, but they have no power over their soul. And that's really important. And it's also important to know that the one who has all the power really cares about them, and he cares about us too. He cares about the sparrows, but he cares much more about us. But we also have to care about him. We cannot deny him if we want to be confessed by him before his Father. So we have to be loyal. We have to be willing to suffer. We have to be willing to help those that are serving him. And we will be rewarded if we do those things. All right, well, that's the reading for today. So that's also the reading for this week. Join me again next week as, Lord willing, we'll continue our journey through the Bible in this Berean pursuit.